we are stepping into the next chapter, which is equally important, as we have seen in the objectives and specifications. Actually, this is important because for a teacher, he has to know how to teach. As we have seen the education process as the tripolar process, the first he will be framing the objectives, what he has to achieve, or in how he has to bring change among the pupils. So that first part is over, that is objectives and specification. To achieve those objectives, the teacher should give the teaching learning experiences. The teaching learning experiences. To give these teaching learning experiences, he has to select a certain approach, he has to implement certain method, he has to use some strategies and techniques. These are the terms we will come across in this. Teaching approaches are different. Approaches and methods, they are closely related terms. We are applying them in giving the teaching learning experiences to the children in the classroom, sometimes even outside the classrooms. So these teaching learning approaches and methods, which are closely related, and how they differ from one another, we have to learn in this. In this we will be learning the teaching approaches and methods. There we can see that teaching is nothing but the more knowledge person will transfer his knowledge to the less knowledgeable person. The more knowledgeable person is transforming this knowledge to the less knowledgeable person. This is what is happening in the teaching process. But in this teaching process, there should be learning. Learning, without learning, there is no use of teaching. That's why the teaching learning process, we are calling it as teaching learning process. Where there is teaching, definitely there will be learning. If there is no learning, we cannot say that it's a fruitful teaching or effective teaching. Some people will be telling that I can teach this way, that way. Way, whatever style you use in your teaching, you have to understand only one thing: there should be learning. What is learning then? Learning is a different process. Olden days they used to think that only memorization, if it comes, if one student by hearts it, that is learning, they used to think. Learning is not simple memorization or simple recall or simple recognition. Learning is not only the getting the knowledge or transformation of knowledge. That's why in the modern ages, the recent times, they are shifting the process from actually cognitivity to the constructivity. Cognitivism, constructivism. Cognitivism is a transformation of knowledge that is happening in ancient times. They used to think that if the guru transfers his knowledge to the disciples, they used to think that was education. The modern meaning is entirely different. The guru or teacher, he has to give place or opportunity to the pupils to construct their own knowledge. Their own knowledge. That's why the approaches from the ancient time to the modern times gradually changed. Objectives are different. Hence we can see there is a change, or there is a shift from cognitivity to the constructivity. Ancient times, the idealistic principles, they used to think that Guru is having the knowledge, he will transfer his knowledge to the disciples. Nowadays, the teacher's role is also different. There the teacher is dominating the ancient approaches and methods. In the present day, the child is dominating. The child was given means appropriate or prominent place in the teaching learning process. Hence we can see here once again, I can stress that the construction of knowledge is stressed in the recent times. Construction of knowledge. The teacher is a facilitator. The role of the teacher in the present days will be the facilitator. So how this shift has taken place? First we will be learning the approaches and methods which are coming from ancient times to the recent times. At the end of this chapter, we will be seeing the modern times approaches. Nowadays, they are not even using the term methods. The modern times approaches. Constructivist approach. Means, actually, we can see the constructivist approach as the main approach in the recent times. And classroom learning experiences, we can see, that is, we can also say that collaborative learning experiences, that is the second approach, collaborative learning experiences. Just like that, teacher will be giving problem to the student. That is, then if he follows that approach, that is called as the problem solving approach. These are the three approaches we can see. Just like that, in that there are several terms like brainstorming, mind mapping, or concept mapping. Such techniques we will use, and we can modernize the teaching learning process. So the aspirants, you have to understand one thing, that you have to learn from the ancient times to the modern times, all these approaches. That's why learning is not simply the knowledge transformation. It is nothing but the behavioral change. The behavioral change. Whose behavior is to be changed in the teaching learning process? It's the behavior of the pupil. It's the behavior of the student. Through the teaching learning process, that may be through the activity based teaching, or through the normal lecture method, or lecture demonstration method, or whether you are using the inductive approach or deductive approach, whatever approaches are there. At last, after the teaching learning process, the entire behavior before teaching should be changed. The end product in the teaching learning process, when you evaluate, you have to find certain change, behavioral change in the student. That is learning. That is what we call the learning. In the teaching learning process, you can use any type of method or approach. So there should be a behavioral change in the student. But what type of behavioral change is this? This is a type of behavioral change. It is not temporary. We have to understand one more thing. It is not temporary. The behavioral change in the student, in the teaching learning process, after teaching, this behavioral change should be a permanent behavioral change. It is a permanent behavioral change, not the temporary. There should be a permanent behavioral change. Through some methods and approaches, you can bring only the temporary change. If a temporary change took place, we cannot say it as a learning. Learning is a permanent behavioral change. We see this permanent behavioral change. When you see this permanent behavioral change, then we can say that is effective method, that is effective approach. Sometimes we teach the students will remember for a short period and they will forget. Whatever you teach today, the students may forget tomorrow. What is the use of teaching then? It is not the permanent behavioral change. Learning is permanent behavioral change. Children will be learning not from the teacher sometimes. They will be learning from the society. They will learning from the environments. They will be learning from the neighbors. So many things they will be learning from the peer group also. Sometimes these behavioral changes, they are very temporary. To explain this, I will use some example. One girl is there. Once I happened to see in the newspaper, one girl in Amirpet. She is a 4-year-old girl. She is speaking 5 languages. 5 languages. My goodness. How many languages do we know? Some will be speaking only 1 language. Some will be speaking 2 languages. English and Telugu sometimes, or English and some other language. Some will be speaking 3 languages. They know their own mother tongue, English as well as Hindi. Tri-language formula they used to follow. Some they will learn language so soon. Wherever they go, they will be learning that particular state language very soon. But this 4-year girl, she has learned 5 languages. I have seen the heading and I am very much attracted with that news, and I have gone through. To my surprise, the situation was like that. That girl, 4-year-old girl, she learned 5 languages. How is it possible? When I have gone through the news, I could understand. Her father is Rajasthani, her mother is Punjabi. Interstate marriage, we can say. Very nice. Her father is Rajasthani, mother is Punjabi. Very good. Whenever this girl happens to go father's house, she will be learning Rajasthani there. Whenever she is going to mother's place, means granny's place, there she is learning Punjabi, because atmosphere was given to her. So she learned 2 languages. Here Rajasthani at father's place, here at mother's place Punjab. Her father is working in Hyderabad. Whether you know Telugu or some other language in Hyderabad or not, but you have to know Hindi or Urdu. You have to speak. She had the atmosphere of Hindi here as she is living in Hyderabad. As she is playing with the Telugu, neighbors, small children who are speaking Telugu, she learned Telugu from them. 4 languages over. She is studying in English medium school. Definitely she will be speaking English even. So these are the means here the atmosphere was created. Atmosphere supported her to know all these 5 languages. But when I have gone through, I was thinking whether this is a permanent behavioral change or temporary. As long as that environment is there, she is learning those languages. When she is away from the environment, automatically she is forgetting one after other. If their parents will quarrel each other, her mother will say, I don't come to your mother's house, I don't come to Rajasthan, and she is not having touch with the Rajasthan, she will forget the Rajasthan. Then her father rejects, when you are not coming to my mummy's place, I don't come to your mother's place. She forgets Punjabi. Incidentally, they got transferred to the Karnataka. She will be forgetting Hindi here and Telugu also sometimes. When she was kept in the Kannada medium school, as her father, he could not afford to pay the high fees there, she will be forgetting English even. So whenever the atmosphere is there, she is learning that particular thing because the environment is created. So that is the temporary change. Through the environment you are learning. But learning is not a temporary change, it is a permanent behavioral change. It is a permanent behavioral change. That's why we have to use, that may be any approach or any method. You have to use that method so that you can bring permanent behavioral change in the children. That is effective teaching. Whatever method or whatever approach, whatever psychologically based approaches and methods we are using, it should bring permanent behavioral change. That's why teaching is not an easy thing, we can say. There is a very good quotation on the screen. Teaching is not everybody's cup of tea. What it means, this quotation, wonderful meaning. Teaching is not easy for everybody. Teaching is science. Some people will say teaching is art even. Teaching is nothing but the inborn talents. Teaching is natural. Teaching is natural. Teaching should come by birth, some people will say. Whether it has come to everybody or not, that is different. A born teacher, what a term. Some people will be thinking that we don't have that type of thing, that born skill we don't have. Then how to teach? That's why they have given another what is that substitution or exception for that. Teaching is not everybody's cup of tea. Teaching is not easy for everybody. Teaching is nothing but the inborn talent. It should come by birth. If it not happens, it is possible through the training they have given. We are learning teaching in the B.Ed colleges or D.Ed colleges. There we were given the training. Whether you have the interest on teaching at the beginning of joining in the B.Ed college, after completion of course, definitely everybody will pay interest towards teaching because they have learnt the approaches and methods of teaching. Learnt the approaches and methods of teaching. That is a very, very important thing. So if it is not inborn, definitely that should be developed through the training. Through the training. So teaching is not easy for everybody. That's why the quotation says, teaching is not everybody's cup of tea. The second quotation even, every scholar may not be a good teacher. Teacher should have the knowledge as well as presentation or expression. Teacher is having the knowledge. More knowledgeable person is the scholar. That's why they have given, every scholar may not be a good teacher. He may be having the knowledge, scholar may be having the knowledge, but he may not, if he doesn't have the skill of expression or presenting that particular knowledge, then we can say he is not a good teacher. So everybody, means every good teacher should have the knowledge as well as expression. That's why we cannot say that every scholar will become a good teacher. The teacher should be a scholar as well as a good teacher, because he has to select certain approaches and the methods, or sometimes techniques and strategies. Then he can be called as a good teacher. That's why every scholar may not be a good teacher. So in the approaches, you see, we can see when you are using the approaches, when you are using the methods, before teaching only we should have several questions in our mind. A good teacher can answer all these questions. Based on these questions, he has to pose these questions to himself. When he asks himself these questions, the answers, whatever will come, that leads to the very good teaching. Here, certain questions are there. On the screen, you can see what to teach. He has to know what to teach. This is the subject matter or syllabus which you are dealing with. That you can get the answer, the syllabus, what you are teaching. When you are questioning this particular thing, what to teach, you have to understand based on the levels of the students you have to teach. It doesn't mean that whatever knowledge you have, you should not give it to 6th class student. He will become mad. You may be having the knowledge of MSc and more sometimes. You should not be so eager that I have to give entire my knowledge to the learner. That's why you have to know what to teach. That your teaching concepts or information, to what level you have to give, that is framed. That is only, we are calling it as the syllabus. We are calling it as syllabus. So what to teach is very, very important. That is the subject matter. To what level you have to teach. In what order you will be teaching. These things we can see. Then there is another question. When to teach? When to teach? Shall we call the children at 12 o'clock in the night time, when they are sleeping, when they are having the sleepy mood? So the time is very, very essential. Not only selecting the approaches, not only selecting the objectives, you have to know what to teach. At the same time, you have to know when to teach, the time. Especially the students, they should be showing some, readiness. When they are ready, you have to teach. When they are ready, you have to teach. If they are not ready, we shouldn't teach, that's all. Or you have to motivate them for the readiness. That is, the motivation is nothing but the readiness program. You have to give such readiness. If you are giving very good motivation, not the routine questions, whatever you are asking every day, If he doesn't pay any interest towards your questions, you have to think that your teaching is ineffective. You have to know when to teach. At the same time, we have to know where to teach, the place, the classroom atmosphere. Sometimes you can take, the child will be very happy when you are taking him to the ground and making him to sit in the grass and listen to the lesson. He will be feeling very happy. But you have to give such interesting lesson so that he will concentrate on you, not the outside surroundings. Children can learn in the place or in the field, in the workshop, in the laboratory, in the library sometimes. So wherever there is scope, he can learn. But the place should be interesting place, enthusiastic place. You should have very good atmosphere for teaching. If nowadays you can see the schools, the classrooms, they will be having very nasty at places where too much crowd is there, disturbance is there, total traffic. Certain even corporate schools, they are not following the fundamental rules with that type of disturbance. So we have to know where to teach. With that type of disturbance, it is very difficult to implement this teaching learning process. So we have to answer where to teach. We have to know the answer for it. Then why to teach? Why we are teaching? What is the reason for the teaching? Why to teach? To make them learn. What is learning? To have the behavioral change. What type of behavioral change? Permanent behavioral change. So that leads you to go in that teaching learning process to make the children to learn something or to have the behavioral change. So that question, if you can answer, you will be knowing and why you are teaching, what is the reason for it, and whom to teach. That is also important. Whom to teach, whom you are teaching. I am giving class now to the learned people. I have to know whom I am teaching. Then I will be knowing the method I have to implement, the approach I have to implement. Several things I have to take into consideration. If I am using the same process when I am teaching to the 6th class or to the primary children, if I use the same process, I do not know. I am not considering whom I am teaching. Based on the standards of the students, you have to teach. Based on the levels of the students, you have to teach. Based on the psychological conditions of the student, you have to teach. That's why you must be aware whom you are teaching. Last but not least, the question is how to teach. This is very important for them. The entire course which we are dealing with now, the methodology part or pedagogy part, it is telling us how to teach. For a teacher, it is very important. Everybody is teaching, but why certain people are called as good teachers? Because they know how to teach. They know the psychological principles behind it. They know the process of teaching. They know they are going for the what do you say, that behavioral change, permanent behavioral change. That's why they are called as good teachers, because they know certain approaches and methods, strategies and techniques. All this they will be knowing when they have to implement different methods and approaches. They will be knowing. That's why we have to know how we are teaching. Methodology tells us how to teach. So a teacher should have several questions. He has to pose himself to get very good answers. Based on that, he can teach very well. The selection of these things we can see. Here we have 3 persons, Pestology, Herbert, Froebel. 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 3 persons, Pestology, Herbert, Herbert Pestology, Froebel, these are the people who have introduced the psychological principles in education. In ancient time, psychology was a different subject. A teacher need not study the psychology. That was the process in education. But nowadays, after these people, they have introduced the psychological principles in teaching, then there is a revolutionary change in the teaching learning process. This is a drastic change occur. The teacher should know the psychology of the child. We are not learning the medical psychology or industrial psychology, somebody's psychology. We are learning the child psychology. Means we have to know when to teach, whom to teach. These two things, if you observe, if you know the psychology of the child, then you will be implementing suitable methods or approaches in the teaching learning process. That's why we have to remember these names: Herbert, Pestology, Froebel. These are the people, key persons who have introduced psychological principles in teaching. We can see this approach method. I said that approach and method, they are interrelated. They are interrelated. Many a times in the places of approach we are using method, the place of method we are using the approach. If you see the meaning in this, there are several things we can observe. We can take a method, for example, lecture method. When you are using the lecture method, first you are telling the known things for the children or to anybody, whenever you are giving lecture to anybody, to any level. If you tell the known things first and going for the unknown things, we can say that approach is the inductive approach. Vice versa. We can say that in that same process, if you are using the first, you are telling the unknown things and then you are going for the known things. That is deductive approach. Means in a method, the process again you are implementing the way of your thinking. That may be called as approach. Here we can see the definition: the process of presenting concepts using method. If I am going from the known to unknown in lecture method I am again, my approach was inductive. If I am first telling the unknown things and going for the known things, my approach is deductive. So in a method again, we have to, means based on our way of thinking, approaches are different. You can see the other definition also. It is nothing but the way of thinking and working in a set direction so as to reach certain goals. That is called as approach. What are the goals? The objectives, whatever the teacher framed. His way of thinking and working in set direction, already goal or objective is fixed in that particular direction. The way of thinking he is going, whether known to unknown or unknown to known, whatever may be, that may be called as the approach. In fact, the definition of method is different. It is a set of actions for routine way of thinking. That's why nowadays we are not at all encouraging the term method. We are going to that particular method in the constructivism. In that we are using that particular term approach. What type of approaches we are using? It is not the routine way of teaching. The routine way of teaching may be called as the method, a set of actions, whatever actions you are following. There is strategy. That is another thing. It is a process, systematic plan which aims to achieve objectives. Strategy is a plan. Ultimately, for everything we have to achieve the objectives. Approach related to the objectives, method related to the objectives, strategy even related to the objectives. Objectives are nothing but a set goal. Just like that, we can see the techniques is a skill to engage the children or learners. The teaching learning process, children will be engaged or learning through different types of activities. For example, to teach the vitamins, you are using the technique, that dramatization. The children, they are wearing the dresses of so many, what is that, vitamins. He himself will come and explain that I am vitamin A. I will be coming to you by eating so and so fruits, everything he will be explaining. That is dramatization. Just like that, vitamin B, vitamin C, different vitamins can be explained. This is the technique we are following. What is the technique? Dramatization. The children are engaged in the dramatization. Children are playing and learning, playing a game. Through that he will be learning some concept. That is playway technique. Playway technique. These are the techniques. So that is a skill where the children are engaged. So method is different, approach is different, strategy is different. Strategy is a plan, and technique is nothing but it is a skill. It is a skill where the children will be engaged. So these terms we are using in the teaching learning process. Approach and method are closely related. Approach is nothing but the way of thinking in using this particular method. Like this, we will come across all these in these approaches. In the teaching learning process, we have to know what is approach, we have to know what is method, we have to know what is strategy, and we have to know what are the techniques to be implemented to engage the children. First, we will be learning about these approaches. Means we are learning the approaches which are carried out from the ancient times to the modern. As I said, in the modern times we have the constructivism, that is one approach. Collaborative learning approach, that is the recent approaches. We have the problem solving approach, as we can see from ancient time to the modern times. And there are several techniques even in the modern times, of course, but we will be learning the even previous approaches. We used to have the two approaches. One is the inductive approach and the deductive approach. First of all, we have to know these approaches. Inductive approach. Actually, the inductive approach is different. Inductive approach and deductive approach quite opposite to one another. Inductive approach, you can see on the screen a person whose name is Francis Bacon. He is a father for the experimental science. He has introduced this inductive approach is based on the psychological principles of Francis Bacon, which is very useful, which gives the permanent behavioral change among the children. So we can see the Fowler, actually the name here was the Fowler. Fowler is stating that inductive approach is nothing but going from the specific information to the generalization. Specific information to the generalization. That is actually the inductive approach. What is specific? Whatever known is specific. After getting all the example, if you tell the generalization, that is inductive approach. That's why we can see known to unknown, concrete to abstract, and proposing generalizations. These three important features of the inductive approach. When you are using this approach, you will be telling whatever is known to the children first, then you are directing him to the unknown things. Whatever they are known, that is the concrete information they had, they will be going towards the abstract information. After teaching that abstract information, again it will become the concrete information. So, in the inductive approach, you are going from the concrete to abstract. Just like that, proposing the generalization. What is generalization? We have seen in the first chapter, in the nature and scope. In the first chapter, we can see what is generalization. Means telling the examples first. We have seen different things, like I have quoted the one example. Some flowers we can take the examples, like jasmine. It is white in color, it has the smell. So whatever means flowers which are white in color, they have very good smell and they blossom in the night time. These are the examples we are giving. And at last we are proposing one generalization, that is, what is it? All flowers which will blossom night time, they will have very good smell. That is one generalization. Means we are introducing the example which are known to the children. At last the unknown thing, what is that? All flowers which are means blooming in the night time, they will be having very good smell. So this is another generalization we can see. Previously we have seen that, what is that? Every means animal, the tiger has the sharp canines, fox is having the sharp canines, and wolf is having the sharp canines. Therefore, the animals which have sharp canines, they are carnivorous. Wolf is carnivorous, tiger is carnivorous, or fox is carnivorous. So generalization we are proposing, that student know about the wolf because he has seen the direct experience, the sharp canine, tiger's sharp canine he has seen, fox's sharp canine he has seen. Generalization he doesn't know. That we are proposing. That is the unknown thing. So proposing generalizations, they are coming under the, actually we can say that is inductive approach. Here we are giving some other examples about the metals. We are giving examples first. What is that? If you heat iron, it will expand. That is a metal. If you heat aluminium, that expands. It is a metal. If we heat copper, it expands. That is a metal. Therefore, one generalization we have to propose. What is that? All metals, they are expanding when they are heated. They expand when they are heated. So metals are expanding when they are heated. That is a general means character of the metal. That the child doesn't know. We are taking him from known thing. What he knows? Through the experiment he knows that when he is taking iron rod and heating it, it expands. Copper rod expands. Aluminum rod expands. Then he is proposing. We are taking him to the unknown thing, that is all metals expand when they are heated. So this type of approach we can call it as a inductive approach. Inductive approach is having several merits we can see. It is a scientific approach, systematic. Order is there, proper order is there. So that is called as the scientific, what is that, approach. It is logical even. Logical means from simple to complex we are going. Simple to complex. And it is psychologically proved. Whatever the psychologists, they state that when you go like this with some readiness, when you are telling about the known things first, the child will have the confidence and he will be pleased to hear the known things. I know everything what the teacher is explaining to me. And at last we are taking to the unknown thing. This is the psychological based. The student will have the self-confidence. As he is listening to the lesson, all known things when you are explaining first, he will have the self-confidence. Yes, I know something. I have to know something more. At last he will be knowing the unknown things, self-confidence. In this, while giving examples, some hard work. Even teacher should have the hard work. He has to collect all the information. First of all, he has to know what is known to the child and what is unknown to the child. He knows everything, teacher. Known to unknown mean it doesn't mean whatever difficult to him he has to give the information. No. By taking students into consideration, he has to go from the known to unknown. We can see the hard work. It is very hard for the teacher to implement this particular thing. This means collecting the example, knowing what is known to the children. We can develop real interest here by using this particular approach, real interest, because as we are going from the known to unknown. And we have to understand, it gives the permanent behavioral change. It gives the permanent behavioral change. That's why whatever you learn, that stays for a longer period in your brain in this approach. That is a long time memory. It's a permanent behavioral change. So this is very effective. But there are certain demerits even in this. We cannot teach all the lessons through this approach. That is another important thing. If one lesson is very difficult, there are no known things, what to do? We cannot go from known to unknown. Then we have to go for some other approach. So in the demerits, we can understand that some lessons are not suitable for this particular inductive approach. Yet, as I said, it is hard for the teacher to collect the information or to collect examples, to imagine what is known to the student. So it is difficult to teacher. Next one, using number of examples and then going for the small thing, then going for a simple generalization. To tell that small generalization, we have to use a number of examples. That is time taking, time consuming. It's very difficult to complete the syllabus using this particular approach. Every generalization will have some exceptions. There may be some animal which do not have the which will have the sharp canines, and it will be herbivorous sometimes. That is exception. If exception is there, the child will be thinking that he will be rechecking. What is that? This particular animal is having sharp teeth, but it is eating only grass. It is eating only grass. How can you say that generalization is perfect? There may be some exceptions, not all. We can see. And at the same time, we have to understand that whatever you have learnt, you can not apply in the daily life. It is very difficult. Every concept cannot be applied in the daily life. So these are all, we can say that the demerits in this approach. Just like that, quite opposite to the inductive approach, we have the deductive approach. Deductive approach, whatever you have written previously, you can, in reverse way you can write. You have already seen that known to unknown. Now you have to write unknown to known. There you have written examples to the generalization. Here generalization first, then you go for the examples. There you have written concrete first, then abstract. Here you have to go for the abstract first and concrete the next. Even example is varied. The same example also you can use. If you write the generalization first and then examples, it's okay. Same deductive approach. But here I have given another example. Every man should die. This is the generalization. Every man should die. This is a principle or law. Whoever born, they have to die. Just like that we can see the example. Socrates is a man, he is dead, he is no more now. We can use any number of people who are not there now. Such examples we can use, not the living people. Socrates is a man, he is dead, no more. Mahatma Gandhi is a man, he is dead. Rajiv Gandhi is a man, he is dead. Aristotle, here we can see this deductive approach is based on the psychological principles of the Aristotle. Inductive approach is Francis Bacon, here we can see the Aristotle. So in this example, we are telling the generalization, every man should die, that is first, then we are giving the examples. It is very easy for a teacher to explain. Directly going means telling the law, directly telling the principle, then going for the examples. It is easy for him to teach. So deductive approach is quite opposite to the inductive approach, we can see. Merits are there for this. As we can see that through this method, as approaches in the inductive approach, we have to use a number of examples. That takes time, I said. It is time consuming, inductive, whereas deductive is time saving. It is economic even. Here we are going directly, means to the principle. Whatever unknown thing is we are telling, then we are going for the known things. Then it is easy for the teacher. And applying laws in the daily life, it is also very easy. Their application is very difficult, I said, and easy for the teacher. So these are the merits we can say. It is very easy to complete the syllabus even in this approach. Sometimes we don't find time. We have applied leave for 2-3 months and we are again joining in the school. Then we can use this method, the deductive approach, directly going for the principles and telling examples afterwards. It is easy to implement this particular thing, but demerits are there. Sometimes we can write like this, whatever merits in the inductive approach, here they will be becoming demerits. Their scientific attitude can be developed. Here there is no scientific attitude. You can add the negativity. Inductive approach develops scientific attitude. Here no scientific attitude. It is not psychological based. It is not depending on the psychological principles. No new ideas will form. New ideas cannot be formed in the pupils because directly you are giving the information. You are not giving opportunity, or you are not facilitating to think. There is no creativity. There is no thought-provoking process. So importance is given to only knowledge. Whatever you see in the syllabus, that you are simply putting in the brain of the student. That's why he is not participating in any activity. He is not giving pressure to the brain. He is not at all thinking. Everything you are feeding it. That's why this is a short time memory. For a little time he can remember. Afterwards he will forget the information. But it doesn't happen where in the inductive approach. So inductive approach, we can observe one